Deep within America's wilderness, people vanish without a trace. Experienced hikers, children playing near campsites, hunters who know the terrain like the back of their hand, gone. Search parties find nothing, no bodies, no evidence, no explanation. Welcome to the disturbing phenomenon known as Missing 411. And today, we're venturing into one of the most perplexing mysteries of America's national parks and forests. A mystery that has left search and rescue professionals, law enforcement, and families baffled for decades. Missing 411 is the term coined by former police detective David Gonzales. After a chance conversation with a national park ranger, Gonzales began investigating disappearances in national parks and forests that shared bizarre similarities. Disappearances that defied conventional explanation. What began as a casual inquiry evolved into an obsession, with Gonzales documenting over 1,600 cases across North America. He's published multiple books on the subject and produced several documentaries. But what makes these cases different from typical missing persons reports? Let's break down the disturbing patterns Gonzales has identified. 1. Geographic clusters of disappearances in certain regions. 2. Victims who vanish in the blink of an eye, often while not alone. 3. Search dogs unable to track or refusing to follow scents. 4. Missing persons found in previously searched areas. 5. Bodies discovered in impossible locations like high elevations. 6. Missing clothing, particularly shoes. 7. Mental disorientation when victims are found alive. 8. Victims found in or near water, despite there being no logical reason. 9. Weather events that hamper search efforts. Gonzales doesn't offer theories. He presents facts, interviews, and documentation, but the patterns are undeniable and disturbing. Probably the most famous case of someone disappearing from a national park without a trace is that of Dennis Martin. Great Smoky Mountains National Park. 6-year-old Dennis Martin was playing with his brother and other children while on a Father's Day camping trip. His father watched as Dennis planned to playfully surprise the group by circling around and approaching from another direction. When the children regrouped, Dennis was gone. He had vanished within seconds, in view of his father, in a small clearing. What followed was one of the largest search operations in U.S. history. Over 1,400 people joined the search, including Green Berets, park rangers, FBI agents, and local authorities. No trace of Dennis was ever found. Not a shoe, not a piece of clothing, nothing. But here's where it gets strange. A family hiking in a different area of the park reported hearing a terrifying scream and then spotting a rough-looking man carrying something over his shoulder, moving quickly through the dense forest. This report wasn't passed to the Martin family until years later. The area where this sighting occurred was never properly searched. July 10, 2015, Timber Creek Campground, Idaho. 2-year-old Dior Kunz Jr. was camping with his parents, great-grandfather, and a family friend. The parents said they left Dior with his great-grandfather for about 10 to 15 minutes while they went exploring. The great-grandfather thought Dior was with his parents. In that brief window, the toddler vanished. Despite extensive searches using dogs, helicopters, drones, and hundreds of volunteers, no trace of Dior has ever been found, not even a footprint. The case became complicated by conflicting statements, but one thing remains clear. A child disappeared in a remote location within minutes, leaving no evidence behind. July 17, 1981, Yosemite National Park. 14-year-old Stacy Arras was on a horseback riding trip with her father and a tour group. They stopped at Sunrise High Sierra Camp. Stacy wanted to photograph a nearby lake and walked a short distance from the camp. Her father saw her walking away. She never returned. Despite an immediate search and no dangerous wildlife reported in the area, Stacy disappeared without a trace. The only item ever found was her camera lens cap, discovered about 500 feet from where she was last seen. The terrain was open, with high visibility. How does a teenager vanish in such circumstances? 40 years later, we still have no answers. October 2nd, 1999, Comanche Peak Wilderness Area, Colorado. 3-year-old Jared Atadero was staying at a lodge with his father and sister. While his father was busy, Jared joined a group of adults going for a hike, with his father's permission. During the hike, Jared ran ahead on the trail. When the adults reached the spot where they had seen him, he was gone. He had vanished in seconds. Search efforts found nothing. 4 years later, in 2003, Jared's clothing was found 550 feet above the trail on a rugged cliff face. The clothing showed no signs of animal attack, but experts said a 3-year-old could not have climbed to that location. His shoes were found with the laces still tied. His pants were turned inside out. How did a toddler end up in an area that experienced adult climbers would find challenging? October 12, 2004, DeWeese Reservoir, Colorado. 9-year-old David Gonzales was fishing with his family when he walked a short distance to gather firewood. He vanished within minutes. Bloodhounds tracked David's scent to the middle of a dirt road, where it abruptly ended. It was as though he had been plucked from the earth. Despite thousands of acres being searched repeatedly, no trace of David was found until July 2006, when a fisherman discovered a child's skull nearly 4.5 miles from where David disappeared. The location had been thoroughly searched previously. The strange part? The skull was found on a flat, open area with no brush or trees to hide it. How was it missed in the initial searches? And how did David travel 4.5 miles through difficult terrain, crossing highways, when search teams found no evidence of his movement? These cases represent just a fraction of the missing 411 phenomenon. But what's causing these disappearances? Paulides himself refuses to speculate publicly, but others have proposed various theories: cryptid encounters, Bigfoot, Wendigo, etc., extraterrestrial abductions, portal or dimensional crossings, underground cavern systems, feral humans living in national parks, government experiments or cover-ups, serial killers targeting remote locations, extreme natural disorientation, or wilderness psychosis. What's particularly troubling is the National Park Service's response, or lack thereof. According to Paulides, the NPS claims they don't keep specific statistics on missing persons in national parks. This seems negligent at best and suspicious at worst. Critics of the missing 411 phenomenon argue that Paulides selectively chooses cases that fit his narrative. They point out that thousands of people get lost in wilderness areas each year, and most are found through ordinary search and rescue operations. They suggest that the patterns Paulides identifies are examples of confirmation bias, seeing connections where none exist. Others note that wilderness environments are inherently dangerous and unpredictable. People underestimate nature, get lost, fall from cliffs, drown in rivers, or succumb to exposure. But these explanations don't account for all the anomalies: the missing clothing, the failure of tracking dogs, the discovery of bodies in previously searched areas, or the inexplicable locations of remains. Whether you believe in paranormal explanations or think there are rational answers to these disappearances, one thing is certain: the wilderness can be as dangerous as it is beautiful. The missing 411 cases remind us of how small and vulnerable we are in these vast natural spaces. They challenge our understanding of reality and our place in it. If you decide to explore our national parks and forests, and I hope you do, take precautions. Always tell someone where you're going. Carry emergency supplies. Don't wander off alone. And perhaps most importantly, respect the wilderness. Because sometimes those who enter these ancient forests never return.